In honor of our first and eighth principals, this month's half-plate recipient is Portland Public Schools Multilingual and Multicultural Center. The center offers programs and services for families and students who are new to the U.S., including extended language learning, community building events, family translation services, parent orientations, and college readiness programs. The Multilingual and Multicultural Center welcomes volunteer tutors for English language learners in grades 9 through 12. For those present in our sanctuary, we are not passing the plate this fall. Instead, we encourage you to contribute your weekly offering in the envelopes marked offering tucked right into your order of worship. There are pens in your pews should you need one. If you cannot find an envelope or a pen, just raise your hand and the ushers will bring one to you. We will collect these envelopes following the conclusion of our service. Please leave them on your pew seat. For those tuning in online, you are invited to make your offering using the donate button in the order of worship. By clicking this link, you will be taken to Give Butter, a virtual giving site that accepts card number, PayPal, and Venmo accounts. You may give your offering by dropping a check in the mail or by using your bank's free bill pay feature. This morning's offering has now been requested and will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. Thanks, Debbie. That was fun. Oh, all right. Our reading this morning comes from this book, The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters by Priya Parker. And Sarah, you turned me on to Priya Parker in a meeting a couple weeks ago. Thank you. That's helpful. So Priya Parker facilitates conflict resolution, public policy design, and transformative gatherings of all sorts. So, she writes, why do we gather? We gather to solve problems we can't solve on our own. We gather to celebrate, to mourn, and to mark transitions. We gather to make decisions. We gather because we need one another. We gather to show strength. We gather to honor and acknowledge. We gather to build companies and schools and neighborhoods. We gather to welcome, and we gather to say goodbye. But here is the great paradox of gathering. There are so many good reasons for coming together that often we don't know precisely why we are doing so. So, on Wednesdays, as some of you know, from 11 to 1, I sit out front at our picnic tables and hold drop-in hours for anyone who wants to come by and chat. All are welcome to swing by at any time for any amount of time during these 2 hours. You don't have to make an appointment in advance, nor should you expect to be alone or feel like you can't come sit down if someone else is already sitting with me. On a recent Wednesday, a couple of you came by to ask me a particular question. It was a great question. In fact, I can't stop thinking about it since you asked. The question: how do we invite people to church? Just as I expected, when I posed that question just now, I saw some of you cringe a little bit. Very you, always shying away from seeming evangelical or like you're imposing your beliefs on someone else. I get that. Maybe there's a little twinge of embarrassment there about being a religious person who's excited about going to church. Some eyes just got really wide. Okay, so a little bit. I'm just poking, seeing what's there. And I also saw some of you shrug and just kind of nod to that question as a sort of just invite them response. And yeah, sure, how do you invite people to church? Just invite them. That's kind of my response at this point, too. But setting both of those initial reactions aside, the reaction and the just invite them response, let's take a minute to consider this question again. This beautiful, productive, and generous question. How do we invite someone to church? Because in this question, I hear a deeper question, which is, when I invite someone to church, what am I inviting them to do? Which begs me to ask yet another question in this unique time and place, in this unique collection of unique individuals. What are we doing right now? Priya Parker, whose work I pulled our reading from this morning, insists that meaningful gatherings must serve a clear and bold purpose. She defines the act of gathering as the conscious bringing together of people for a reason. Gathering, she writes, shapes the way we think, shapes the way we feel, and helps us make sense of the world. In The Art of Gathering, and throughout many interviews, TED Talks, and articles, Parker implores people to get clear not on how they will gather, the logistics, the decor, the technology, the food, but why they are gathering. When we don't examine the deeper assumptions behind why we gather, we end up skipping too quickly to replicating old, staid formats of gathering, and we forego the possibility of creating something memorable, even transformative. Routine, she states, is the great enemy of a meaningful gathering. Priya Parker is a trained facilitator in conflict resolution and international peace negotiation, contexts in which she explains problems are solved through group experiences. And throughout the pages of The Art of Gathering, She describes gatherings ranging from courtroom proceedings to classrooms to baby showers, wherein she works with organizers, teachers, and hosts, whom she refers to collectively as gatherers, to get clear on the ways, means, and most importantly, the purposes of their gathering. She explains her process of using sustained dialogue to help gatherers achieve such clarity, which is just as it sounds, a sustained process of talking to each other and asking and answering questions together over and over again in order to gain specificity on the needs and purposes of any given gathering. She refers to this particular approach somewhat in jest as drill, baby, drill. She writes, "Take the reasons you think you are gathering, because it's the weekly department meeting, because it's family tradition to barbecue at the lake, because it's my birthday, and keep drilling below them. Ask why you're doing it. Every time you get to another deeper reason," she writes, "ask why again. Keep asking why until you hit a belief or value." Now, perhaps you're like me, and when you hear of a woman who worked in conflict resolution in South Africa, who now helps plan family barbecues at the lake using the same strategies, you're like, really? Maybe that's a bit much. Can't we just hang out, have a tofu dog, go for a swim, call it good, go home? And sure, yes, chilling and grilling by the lake sounds great. Who can argue with that? But what grips me about Priya Parker's work is, well, her purpose. She wants to help gatherers locate and specify their beliefs and values so that their gatherings naturally evoke a sense of belonging and compel a transformation in those who attend. Specify beliefs and values. Evoke a sense of belonging. Compel a transformation. Might just be my UU ministerial ear, but that sounds a lot like church to me. On numerous occasions in The Art of Gathering, Parker walks readers through, almost verbatim, the sustained dialogue she's held with people planning various types of events. During one such conversation with a person planning an annual neighborhood potluck, by pretty much just asking why over and over again, Parker leads the gatherer from wanting to host the potluck because it's an annual tradition that everyone likes, why, to recognizing that the potluck serves as a way to forge bonds that enable neighbors to feel comfortable asking for help, enables children to feel known and protected, and overall builds a sense of trust and care in their neighborhood. And sure, who doesn't like a block party and getting to know your neighbors a little bit? But when you go to such an event with a deeper awareness of the purpose that event holds for you, that it's rooted in care, in presence, in the need for help, in trust, that event might become precious to you in a new way, transformative even, you might say. You might be more honest, more vulnerable, compassionate, more conscious while you're there, which might cause you to seem more welcoming and approachable to others. You might walk away with a new sense of belonging. You might provide others with a new sense of belonging as well. And if you're planning an event, such an event like that, you might also think about the ways in which you can ensure that these caring and comfortable bonds are formed. You can think about particular rituals to mark the moment together, particular ways of beginning, particular ways of saying goodbye, that enables people to feel seen and known and able to see and know others. If Priya Parker had been sitting at the picnic tables with us this past Wednesday, she would have definitely interrupted our brainstorm on how to invite people to church and instead asked us, why do we want to invite people to church? And I think if we can get clear on that question, Why do we want to invite people to church? We will naturally feel more willing, eager even, to not only invite people to a Sunday at First U, but simply to come and be here. And quickly, I don't think because we want to grow our community is a viable response to the question, why invite people to church? The purpose of this congregation is not to grow in numbers. It's something else. Which brings me back to that question I asked at the start of this message. In this unique time and place, with this unique collection of unique individuals, what are we doing here right now? This is what we want to invite people to do with us. Why? If you just responded to that question in your head, I encourage you to follow up your response with, why? Why? On the topic of purposeful gatherings, a common ritual in many weddings I've officiated is the lighting of a unison candle. Couples arrive at the altar and each light a separate candle, and then at some point in the ceremony, they light one candle together from the flames of their individual candles. Have any of you ever seen this ritual before? Yeah. Some of you might have done this ritual at your wedding. At the end of the ceremony, all three flames are lit, one for each spouse, symbolizing their uniqueness, their autonomy, and the third, the unison candle, symbolizing their relationship, the thing that has come alive, come to light, because they are together. And yes, as I shared on Pi Day last March, I am no math genius, but I often explain this ritual to couples in terms of a mathematical equation. 1 + 1 = 3. And so I was struck recently when a friend of mine who's a therapist used this exact same equation to explain the dynamic he perceives and hopes to achieve in his sessions with clients. 1 + 1 = 3. Taking this equation out of the context of a marriage, more specifically a ceremonial wedding ritual, was liberating. I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before. And yes, I was filled with curiosity about my friend's understanding of this equation in therapy sessions, but I immediately thought of you, of us, of this, and how at the start of our services, once we've all gathered, once we've all brought our attention to our relationship in this time and place, what's the first thing we do? We light a candle together. Friends, what are we doing right now? We're creating and sustaining a different kind of relationship to one another and to ourselves than we are able to create and sustain in our jobs, our routines, and day-to-day responsibilities. Why do we want to invite people to church? I think so we can be in a different kind of relationship with them. Why? So we can have different kinds of conversations with them. Why? So that we can be more authentically our vulnerable, passionate, uncertain, joyful, grieving, spiritual seeking selves with them. And they, in turn, can be that with us. Why? Because we are so hungry for deep, meaningful, trustworthy, emotional connections in our lives, whether we know it or not. Especially after the year and a half we have been apart from others. And speaking specifically to this congregation, we want these kind of relationships, especially after the hurt and healing that has transpired here in recent years. It's what it is to be human. You want to connect. Anytime two people come together, Priya Parker spoke in a recent interview, anytime two people come together, power exists. 1 + 1 = 3. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Yeah, yeah. And friends, so many questions this morning, but here's one last question for us, the three of us. What are all the ways we can manifest this power here together and beyond? What are all the ways we can light up? We can break from routine and make our routines powerful. We can talk about it at the picnic tables. Come on by. Friends, let us gather. Let us ask why. Let us explore. Let us come to life. Let us come to light. Let it be so, and amen. Sean and Debbie, if you want to play us a little tune, if you want to take a moment and ask why, you can do that too. Thank you. Thank you to our musicians this morning. Thank you to Gwen and Mac, to Kelsey. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Pete. Thanks to all of you for gathering this morning. I think we can definitely have our coffee hour without umbrellas, so I hope to see you out there in a moment. But before we leave this space, my friends, why don't you join me in a closing time of prayer. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings experience profound joy and the causes of profound joy. May we all be free to ask the important questions. May we all be able to feel a sense of belonging. May we all continually transform in better, healthier, happier ways. Won't you join me now in the words of our unison benediction, written in your order of worship. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. For those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Thanks, everybody. See you outside. I think you two are going to play us out. Wonderful.